You need a few minutes. All right. I'll leave this up for a sec then and we'll just pass the time then, can't I, till you're ready. Hello and welcome to Not Live, episode 16 of Ante. Unfortunately, we were struggling a little bit. I was running a little bit late and I've blamed it on Matt for the intro bit, which you've already watched, and it was pointless. It was going to be funny when we went live. And secondly, the stream was so laggy. So rather than sacrifice quality, because it was so bad, it would have just cut out. We're just gone old school, didn't we? We're just going to have a little casual, little chit-chatting with a couple of lads, a couple of geezers, talk about all seas. And there is quite a bit to talk about, I think, this week as well, Matt. Not just the action that's gone. Been lots of information coming out, big stable tour news. We've had handicap entries been leaked out today. Markets have moved about because of that. Obviously, we've got some entries coming up this weekend, which I consider this is the last possible weekend for anything Cheltenham-related clue-wise. I know there might be some really weird, obscure handicapper that might do something in between that might go there, but there's some like Fernie Hollow and Burning Victory ran at Fairy House on the Sunday last year. Both went on to win at Cheltenham. I know last year it didn't pay dividends, but the Dove Cut, the Adonis, the Pendle, Novice Chase at Kempton, they're always races to look forward to. So we'll talk about them. We'll obviously review what happened previously. We'll slip in some of those bits of key information about horses, targets, things like that we'll probably think are worth mentioning to people. And do you know what? We might as well just give everyone a selection as well on top of that.
Yeah, mate, yeah. I mean, it feels like this week it's all of a sudden ramped up again, doesn't it? It's gone from being in a little bit of cruise control to stable tours and handicap entries and trying to do a day-to-day job as well. And yeah, it's just all of a sudden ramped back up again. But yeah, it's all good, isn't it? All good fun. Lots to go through this week.
Yeah, man, and it is all like part of the process. Like I've missed out on a couple of horses that I should and could have cashed out on just for the pure fact that I didn't do it. You were mentioning the other day that you're having a bit of a cold, weren't you? Then you and I about a couple of horses. It is important this time of year, if you're betting as far back as me and Matt do, or Matt and I, that you should be thinking about culling certain horses. So horses like Dicky Diver that hasn't got the qualification for the National One Chase now, his cash out's been suspended in line with the handicap stuff. It might potentially come back up, but they're just like potentially silly little ones like that when you're starting to think we get so close to Cheltenham now. Horses that haven't qualified probably aren't going to be able to, or if they did run, wouldn't be able to peak at Cheltenham. Just saying that for the sake of saying it. There's other bits as well, like handicap horses where we were getting whispers that they weren't going to run. But again, I've talked about this being a bugbear about doing a show like this, that we were pitching it on a day of the week. We're recording it and it's going out. So up until the last few lives we've done, it doesn't come out till the Wednesday. Lots of this information is very time sensitive. So I might get a WhatsApp from Matt saying this is what's happening with something. By the time I've even logged onto my betting account, the cash outs have been suspended. Or by the time I've logged onto an account to have a bet on it, the price is gone. So even me looking at my phone straight away while trying to do the day job as well, like Matt says, it's hard to keep on top of it. So with a pinch of salt, the stuff that we're saying in here, it might be some after timing for lots of bits of information, but I guess there'll be quite a few of you that don't have the time or don't have the inclination to keep up as frequently as Matt and I do and other people. So I hope there's a few useful bits in there, because I did see some people putting bets on horses, Matt, that we saw maybe a week ago that aren't going to be running at Cheltenham. And it's not scandalous that the bookmakers are keeping them open because maybe the bookmakers don't know. But when the bookmakers know Fernie Hollow's injured and they know Benny Taju's out because the exchange price has gone, these other horses they know are not going to run at Cheltenham, but they lead in the market. As far as I'm concerned, from like an integrity perspective, they should be taking them out, shouldn't they?
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Once they know they've got to come out of the market, I suppose technically it's nothing. It's frowned upon would be the word, wouldn't it? I would think it's just not good for the image, really, is it? That's the thing. You don't want people betting on something that's got no chance. It's already difficult enough, and it post punting without starting off without any chance of getting a run for your money. So yeah, it should be definitely taken out of the market. 100%.
And it's like the leaked handicap stuff today as well. I haven't looked into it. I've looked into them enough, but I haven't looked into enough depth in terms of the market and what's been left open. But I've seen tweets going out there that like 7 of the top 20 in the Martin Pipe haven't even got entries, and they're left in the betting. And like, because we can see that because someone's leaked it, the bookmakers, they'll be checking what those entries are because they'll want to know which horses to take in and leave out. And they're leaving in horses they know full well are going to be not in the market tomorrow because they're not even entered. And some of those bookies are doing it on not even non-runner, no bets. I just think it's a bit scandalous. So just be careful with your bets this time of year. And if you look at that odds checker, you'll see the sea of blue for certain horses, which means it always happens this time of year. As soon as the handicap entries come out, people will see a horse has only got an entry in a particular race. You know, they go in there, weights of money goes in for horses just on that basis. And then we'll see the same thing next week when the weights come out. There'll be some horses that have potentially been given a very lenient opportunity by the handicapper that just on the basis of that, they'll be smashed in the betting. And then before anyone takes the time to consider whether it's actually got a genuine chance and in terms of validating the rest of the field, people just want to get their money on straight away, because if you don't back it, say 14-1, an hour after, or 5 minutes after the weights have come out, an hour later, it'll probably be a 5-1 poke. And if you did want to back it, you probably lost the price. So it's going to be even worse next week, Matt, is what I'm trying to say. So enjoy that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like I say, it probably is going to be even worse last week. I haven't gone mad today myself. Like you said, I hadn't been through everything. There's 2 or 3 I had my own that if they got an entry, I'd back quick, which I did. But bar that, I'll go through it and then I'll wait for the weights for the rest probably now. Unless there might be a couple more non-run, no bet, and then you start taking the risk away a little bit. But yeah, that's the way I'd play it there at this stage.
Yeah, and then we did talk, didn't we, about stable tours and stuff that were coming out. So they're obviously really handy because trainers will give you some clues in there. And then also with that being said, that can potentially move the market as well because trainers will dictate a target. But that didn't seem to happen so much the last couple of days or few days when we saw some entries, did it? But we managed to potentially be confident in ones that we'd already backed or managed to cash out a couple that we didn't. So again, like I said, with these sort of shows, without me streaming my life live, I can't get the information out to people. So I am sorry. It makes me feel bad because I don't want to have an advantage over other people. I don't mind having an advantage over the bookmakers, but it isn't a competition of me versus Matt. Like, I don't think, I'm not going to tell Matt because I want to make sure I get my bet on. Yeah. It's a case of we want all of us to have the same information at the same time to try and do some stuff with it. So we will talk about some of the stable tour stuff because I'm sure most people have seen about Willie Mullins, Gordon Elliott stuff anyway. When Gordo entered a few horses over here at Musselburgh, people were obviously getting excited about Iscaria 10 because the mark it looked lenient, and obviously it was. But there were some other ones that went there, and I said to you, I'd go through some of them about potential targets where they would be. A couple of them have come to fruition. So now we're sitting in the background, aren't we? While everyone else is late to the party, lumping them on, we may be on, which is a terrible thing for me to say because these are the sort of ones that you guys at home would potentially like me to say. But as many times as I might get some of these right and we're taking a punt on it, hoping that we can cash out, like I say, these ones that are time critical, I don't want to put in a position where I'm going to say to you guys, I'm putting this selection up, knowing full well that half of the reason we're putting up is that if it goes for that target, it's going to be smashed up. If it doesn't go for the target, we can cash out. So if I put them up for you guys, you can't cash out. It's just too risky. It's not worth the prices. But we'll allude onto those probably never, because one of them got put up on the other show this week. Killed me, kicked me in the nuts. And someone on this show's stolen another one I quite liked. And we were tempted to both put it up, but my book is so poor, I don't want to tarnish Matt's. What we'll do this week as well, we're not going to go back and review all the selections because we did that last week. We'll just do a total up the week before the festival to show you where we're at. Because we're recording this rather than going live, we are a bit more time critical, which you'll be pleased to see me waffling away because the way I do it. But Matt, let's review some of the action that's happened because it's not going to take too long to go through that, I don't think. We can probably shoehorn some bits about horses that ran and maybe targets and stuff for the festival as well. Then we'll quickly go through some of the stable Tory stuff that people might have missed. And then we've only got one selection each this week. Mine's going to take very little time to talk about. So hopefully we can just smash through this very quickly. So horses, I'll let you start running through some horses that you think are up there. Oh, actually, yeah. And then one other thing, there was a question on Facebook that's not an answer. So I'll do that as well. But let's go on with some horses that ran. I'll let you start off with. I think there's only one start in place, but don't start with him because neither of us like him.
Okay, yeah, I was just going to start with him, but yeah, all right, I'll start chronologically with Chantry House getting the better of Coconut Splash then, which I thought was a much better performance. I thought prior to that he was in danger of sort of looking a bit champy, as in slow away from his fences, but he really improved his jumping, I thought, and it was a decent performance, put himself back in the mix for a Marsh by the looks of it. Not going to beat Envy, but back in the mix for that, mate, I'd say.
Yeah, I agree. And the thing with the Marsh thing there, because he got backed in for the stable play or something like that, I think, didn't he, after the race?
Yeah.
The thing with the Marsh is, it is just like people say, you can never be afraid of one horse. So I guess that's the line in. And Henderson's got Fusel Raffles, who, like they say, he's fairly ground dependent, but he seemed to do all right on the bit slower ground at Cheltenham last time. he could go either Arkle or Marsh, but I guess Nicky Henderson would be quite happy to stick the pair of them in against something like an Envoy anyway. But yeah, I thought he was pretty impressive. Obviously, Coconut Splash, you don't get a penalty for running up behind horses in these novice chases. So he was never going to get effective with his mark. The fact that he got beat was a good thing because he's going to be, well, even before the race, I think a lot of people thought would have been thrown in for a handicap anyway. He's got no Cheltenham Festival entries. He hasn't run at Cheltenham before, so I wouldn't have seen him as a Cheltenham horse myself anyway. And he did get beat at 14s at Aintree last year when I put him up the swine and he got done in a head bob. So I reckon he'll be an Aintree horse for it. And that's what we'll get now. It's very exciting with Cheltenham, but there'll be lots of horses that don't run, not entered in festival races, that we had an eye on, that we need to keep in the back of our minds when it comes to Punchestown, Aintree, Fairyhouse. So we'll do some sort of previewy stuff before each of those meetings as well about horses that we've kept on our radar. But yeah, Chantry House I thought was fairly good, mate.
We're going Goshen.
Yeah, go on, man.
Well, I mean, you say we both don't like him. I haven't been keen from the start. He was far too short at the start of the season. But he's one who's going to niggle me, Dave. I've got to admit, he's one who's going to niggle me. I thought he was impressive the other day. He's one who could bolt up or he could completely flop. I honestly don't know what to make of him. My worry is that he's this year's Epitaph for me. That's the way. I haven't got a penny on him. He could end up biting him in the backside like Epitaph did last year. But he's too short now again. That's the thing for me. He's far too short again now on what he's done. But he's still in that category. Could be anything. That's the problem. It's whether or not you think someone ran up to form, and whether he's just turned that form around, which I don't think he has. He'd have still won the race, but if someone had run to form, the gap would have been much closer, I think. Yeah,
it's a hard one as well, isn't it? Because he won on the bridle, so it appears from the job. People will take it that the horse didn't have that hard a race, but I'm a massive advocate of trying to do it myself. Did it a lot when I was doing the in-running punt, and that you really need to be keeping your eye on the horse as opposed to the jockey, because you could have two finishes that are ridden out the same where the jockey doesn't ride them because they don't need to, they're so far clear. One horse could have loads left in the tank and he really is on the bridle, and you could have another horse that is absolutely all out, and even if they rode it out, it was never going to make a difference. But because the jockey sat there comfortably, Joe Public would look at it and say, both of those had loads more left in the tank. And that's the thing with the Goshen run. I don't know that he had loads left in the tank, but on what he did, he is frightening. And like you say, I'm going to be just like scared of him coming to the Champion Hurdle. Frustrating thing was I did the weekend preview stuff, and we talked. I put in there that Goshen fans should be backing him 20-1 non-winner no bet, because like if he disappointed again, he wasn't going to run at Cheltenham, was he? So I feel like a mug for not doing it, but it's probably stubbornness more than anything. I just don't like. And I know stats are there to be broken, but I look at the historical 5-year-olds out there that are absolute beasts. You look at Espoir Delan, that was unbeaten the season he won the Champion Hurdle. I backed him for the Triumph the year before. It was lame after the Far Class Mr. Adjudicator run in Ireland, and I was a bit sceptical about maybe he was lame, but he was also beaten so bad. Maybe he wasn't as good a horse as I thought he was. And I know that was a really good renewal of the Champion Hurdle, but he was 25-1. Yeah. I know Goshen would have won the Triumph Hurdle, but Espoir Delan equally could have won the Triumph the year before. Goshen has pulled up this season, admittedly with a heart issue. The flat runs were poor as well, but I don't mind excusing those because it's a completely different discipline. Just think like you were saying about the price, like the price discrepancy now is just so wrong for me that based on what he did in that Wincanton run, if you forget about the rest of the season, say that was his only comeback run and they were just biding their time like they were doing with Champ, then he like 5-1 probably doesn't look like horrific. I think he got a Racing Post rating of 167 as well, that's filthy to be fair. And you go back to look at horses like Catch It that won the Champion Hurdle. He went off at 11-2 after winning a Triumph. Look at Arconnor after winning the Triumph that ill-fated in that Champion Hurdle. But he'd run up in the Irish Champion Hurdle and almost got the better of Hurricane Fly, one of the best 2-milers about. So like his level of form looked pretty good. That was the Champion Hurdle that Jet Ski won. Arconnor went off at 5-1 that day. And I know obviously like he fell, so he was ill-fated. We don't know, he might have won that Champion Hurdle. Just feel like probably Goshen does maybe deserve to be short. I just don't think he deserves to be as short as Catch It and Arconnor. And I know they're different races and it's like shouldn't be comparable for that, but I'm more than anything just annoyed that I didn't back him pre-race. Potentially a bit stubborn. Like I might stick him in a couple of like free bets that we get thrown about. You can do that at that sort of price, but I still just think that he needs bad ground, and I think that the bad ground's only going to make Honeysuckle stronger and stronger. And if the ground comes up a bit better, then it means Epatante probably comes a bit more to the fore. But even on better ground, I'd fancy Honeysuckle to do Goshen. It's just going to be really interesting because I think he's going to swing in as they turn up for home, and Honeysuckle's going to be there. I feel like Abracadabra is going to be up there as well. Yeah. Then they're going to be ridden, and then it's just a case of if he gets headed, I just wonder what he'll do because he's always been so far clear of the horses and won so comfortably. And I don't like the fact that they've had to mix things up with the training as well. Like Paul Nicholls had to put the blinkers back on Cheltenham because he basically all but said on a TV interview that he was refusing to jump at home. And as much as you can have a talented horse like Cheltenham that was the highest rated chase, and you can have a talented horse like Goshen, there's no doubt that the horse has got the ability. Has he got the mindset to go and win a champion hurdle? I'm not so sure. But he's definitely got the engine. He's definitely got the ability. Like, he would not be a shock. He deserves to be where he is in the market, but I just don't think there's any juice in the price. And because I've opposed him last year in the Triumph, which was wrong, I've just opposed him in the champion hurdle because of the stats. No horse that's pulled up in this has failed to complete a race has won a champion hurdle. 5-year-olds we know find it hard to go in there, don't they? There's enough for me to just think I'm happy sitting on Honeysuckle, but I am stupid. I should have backed to a 20 before the race. So well done to anyone that did. It's enough Goshen time, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. At least we've got a good race, mate. That's the thing. It's going to be a decent race. So that's the main thing. And
I couldn't have Epatante being a dual champion hurdler. So I'd rather Goshen wins it than Epatante, to be honest.
Yeah, me too, to be fair, mate. Me too.
So who else?
Champ. Got to mention Champ. Well, you got to mention So Royale, haven't you? Won the race at the end of the day. But Champ was so much better. I thought, I couldn't believe what he was doing, to be honest with you. I honestly didn't think he'd be able to go the pace with proper 2-milers on half decent ground as well. And do you know what it made me think, Dave? Do they just let him go? Is that the key to him? Do they just let him go with the pace more, even in a Gold Cup, and just hope that he stays? We know he stays well, so do they just sort of send him off and get him into a rhythm rather than trying to sort of sit him back in the field and risk those sticky jumps and then slowly away from him? I think that might be the way to go with him. Run him a bit closer to the pace and off you go. But he's a definite threat in the Gold Cup now for me, 100%.
Yeah. He looked real good, didn't he? And I think that Matt Chapman talked about it, didn't he? Saying about the class of horses that he was dropping back against. And like So Raw was really the only 2-miler in there. I know Grenadine ran well in a Tingle Creek, but Grenadine won a Howden Gold Cup earlier in the season. And they're normally horses, I mean, they do go on to do okay in 2 miles, but they're more like 2.5 miles. Grenadine needs to step up. Even Fanny and D'Espreval probably can mix it in the middle trip, but he's like sort of a handicapper a couple of years ago or a year ago, and he's probably better suited to the middle trip. Champ was definitely really good. I still do wonder, Nico didn't get to work on him until just before the last, and I actually do think that if Nico had tried to let him go from 2 out, I reckon he probably could have beaten So Raw.
Do you think could have stretched him and nullified?
Because I was adamant. I'd already predicted in my head that they were going to go easy on him in the finish because they didn't want to give him that hard race. Yeah. And then like I said before, I think with Champ, the type of horse it is, if he's involved at the business end, probably whether you ride him or not, he's going to start putting a bit of effort in. But he ran such a monster race, didn't he? I think for Cheltenham, they'll definitely try and get him some cover. But I agree with you. I think that probably the thing to do with him is let him be up there with the pace. The thing is, I know he can come back and run in the Gold Cup next year. Age isn't particularly against him, but we know what the record's like for horses like that. I know Native River's gone and broken that stat, but I don't. Someone like a Champ that's not and not so prominent with so much racing. Like, he has had issues and things. This is the one chance to get it right for him, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I just don't think they'll be ballsy enough to put him uppish with the pace. And there's going to be a lot of pace in the race this year, I think. And the Gold Cup is pretty quick, isn't it? But yeah, he was real good.
Yeah. No, can't argue with him, mate. He's right up there with the Gold Cup contenders, definitely.
Anything else you want to mention?
That was the main ones, Dave, on my list, really.
So Cocoa Beach ran at Nace.
Yeah.
Isn't going to Cheltenham.
Yeah. Maybe that's why I didn't want to mention it.
Yeah, true.
I mean,
but that's another one of those that, again, that people were talking about for Cheltenham for all these different types of races, which is fair enough. But there was comments that came out about him going for an Irish Grand National. So, you have to look at these opportunities, keep an eye on what the comments are going out there from people, and trust what some people are saying, even if it might annoy us because we've backed them at big prices or whatever. Take things with a pinch of salt. Bob and Co ran really well. in his Hunter Chase race, didn't he? We still haven't had a decision on the amateurs. What's going to happen with them at Cheltenham? I can't see how they won't let them ride at Cheltenham, personally. But
yeah, I mean, hopefully they can ride it. I mean, it throws the cat among the pigeons if they don't, as to usual things you look out for with who's going to be riding which top amateurs are going to be riding the horse in those races. So it really changed the complex of the races. But I think they'll be all right now. That's my gut feeling, but who knows, really?
Yeah, that's it. And there's been no decision announced, but I imagine that will come out fairly soon. So I'm hoping they will be able to go. But yeah, Champagne Platinum, I've been mentioning him a few times and I've not had the balls to put him up. Main reason I didn't put him up as a selection was just simply for the fact that I was terrified, absolutely terrified that they were going to go and win with him before Cheltenham. And whether, like, I know obviously maybe like Cheltenham is the big day, that's where they want to do it. And I was probably a bit stupid to think that, but maybe mention him enough that if people were semi-inclined, they could have gone with it. But he did everything exactly that he needed to do, didn't need to get qualified. He goes there with a proper chance. I think he's 9-1-ish now, which I wouldn't say is a very big price because you could have got 20 before he qualified. But when you take into consideration he has now qualified, he's only got up that pound. Like, I don't think it's the worst 9-1 poke out there for people that aren't already on. But hey ho, sort of kind of after time and before time, sideways time. Stable Tory stuff that came out. Interesting few bits that are in there. I'm not going to just sit back and read a few of them, but we looked at the two big ones to talk about really is Willie Mullins and Gordon Elliott. The thing from Henry de Bromhead was basically about Bob Ollinger. They're still leaning towards the Baddingmore, but Supreme is under consideration. The way I see it for the Supreme is Bob Ollinger's going to be so much better on spring ground, isn't he? So the better the ground is, the more likely he's going to go Baddingmore. And that's not just because the trip will be easier for him. I just think the better the ground is for him, the better chance he's got full stop at any race. The only way I'd possibly see him in the Supreme is if the ground was like utter bottomless and they're just thinking that 2 mile, 5.5 in a hard race at Cheltenham when they've got this horse for the future is going to leave too much of a mark on him. So you'd rather run him in the Supreme. And even if he can, because he come top 3 in a Supreme probably, I think that's the only way they switch him. But Henry de Bromhead was still leaving that door open a little bit for him. And I think it's worth him doing that as well, because not we want anything to happen, but say Appreciate it gets a niggle now, doesn't go to Cheltenham, Baddingmore's wide open again, and Brave Man's Game's not got the speed for 2 miles, and Gallard de Mesnil possibly could, but you wouldn't see those two transferring. So options all open, and then he has pretty much all but said that put the kettle on, go for the Champion Chase, didn't she? So we knew that a little bit before. Of Willie's, anything that jumped out for you? Otherwise, I'll pick a few that's come up on here.
I ain't got it in front of me, Dave. So you start, and I'll jump in. The one thing I would say is the Fury Road thing was one thing that sticks in my mind. That they've sort of gone one way and then the other. And I think Gordon said that they were going to skip the Stayers and go to Fairy House. But then I think O'Leary said since that Stayers isn't off the table altogether. So I mean, it'd be mad to skip the Stayers to me, but who knows? Who knows? Still, we don't know, do we really, with those two comments, which way they're going to go. So
no, and the problem with that is normally you'd go with the trainer, wouldn't you? But when it's O'Leary, you'd go with O'Leary, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Tricky thing with the way, I know it's annoying from an Antepost perspective that we're putting stuff out, and I know this will probably cause some dispute between people, but as much as it's annoying, if a trainer doesn't run a horse in the race that you've backed it for whatever reason, whether they want to skip the festival, whatever it is, you have to just consider the fact that it wouldn't have won. So as much as it would be nice to get everyone there the day and be there with the opening, you'd rather be let down in advance than be let down on the day. I consider it, you'd rather never be engaged than get stood up at the altar. Because we've been stood up at the altar many a times. Paisley Park, he left me there for a long time last year. So a few from like Willie Mullins bits that came out of it. A few of them were missing, to be fair. Hookup wasn't in the Stable Tour, but raving about it. She is in the Mayor's Entries. They're out on Twitter as well. Now, there wasn't anything like major that came out of there that you wouldn't necessarily expect. We know since that Saint-Oir's not going to go for the Champion Hurdle. They're just not quite right with him. Fair play, mate. Just gone and shown any that not probably up to it. But there's a few bits and pieces like Mellon, champion, the Ryanair and the Gold Cup. They're still talking about both being potential options. But then he puts a little line in there and says he enjoyed being ridden positively in the Marsh, and we might think about doing something similar in the Ryanair. So say that they're both open and then make a direct reference to the Ryanair. So take that how you want. And then it's just like bits and pieces. I put N'Golo up for any race. He's talking about him for Ballymore, Albert Bartlett, if he comes to Cheltenham. So again, they still think he's that sort of calibre, but they're not sure whether they're going to bring him over to Cheltenham. And I still think off the mark that he's got, man, if they're still talking about him being that sort of calibre, you've got to win a handicap with him. Like, you really could. But Willie Mullins isn't that fussed about exploiting handicap marks in novices. He wants them, if he thinks they're grade one, he's going to run them in the grade ones, isn't he? So it wasn't a massive amount that came out of there. We'll see from the entries as well in there, but Blackburn, everyone was talking about him being a plot job for the Grand Annual, the Grand Annual, the Grand Annual. About 30 times I've bloody heard that. It's not good enough to win a Grand Annual, especially not off of his mark. He's either going to run in the Arkle or he's not, was basically it. Gordon Elliott had a few ones that were quite nice in there. Who's the county hurdle horse, mate, that you mentioned to me could be going there anyway, but others were tipping up for the Grand Annual, weren't they?
God, yeah.
Eclair de Buffon.
Eclair de Buffon, yeah.
So again, that's the interesting thing with these stable sort of things and the angles and stuff that people are looking at. Some people get very stubborn in their views of where a horse should go. Mm-hmm. And then when these sort of things happen, you can be a bit like sit behind it. Horses that are bought novice chasing, I don't know what their record is going in hurdle races at Cheltenham, but at least you get an idea of where the targets are going and like prices. So he was an interesting one that came up. One that is also interesting, not necessarily from his stable tour, but going on to Cheltenham, is the Martin Purcell that's run on Thursday. He's got some good winners that have won it and then run well at Cheltenham. I like the line in for Gordon Elliott horses, although this year doesn't look so prominent. But Grand Paradis and Fighter Allen were the two notable runners in that race on Thursday at Final Declarations. Only Grand Paradis got the Martin Pipe entry. He wasn't priced up in the book, the betting for it. So I was going to be tempted to request a bet and see what sort of price we get about him. But we'll let him run Thursday because I think he'll be, well, I think he'll run okay, and then we'll see after that. But he's one that's semi-tempting. But it was nice to see Fleur as well, one that I put up on my horses to follow, that he is going to go Martin Pipe. Another one that I said to you, we saw it, didn't we, in the entry over here? I mean, we saw him as like a horse that going back over hurdles could be prominent. So it's nice to see they're going there. There wasn't really anything stupid that came out of Gordon Elliott, I don't think, was there?
No, not that I can think of.
Tory Graft definitely going. Albert Bartlett was one because people were looking at him for handicap, weren't they? Milan Native's definitely worth mentioning because after the national weights came out, he was talking about this horse saying I'm very impressed with the mark, wouldn't he? Say about him for that race, and then he's now saying that he fancies him for the Kim Muir.
Yeah. So
I think that's not like to say it's a tip in itself absurd, but the Ultima is a nice race for those national type horses, and I just feel like Gordon Elliott, what he was saying off the back of that mark, and what's going to happen now is they're not going to change his national mark for Cheltenham. And if he's thrown in the national, which is a really hard race to win, he's very happy with his mark in the Ultima. I've backed him for the national off the back of those Gordon Elliott comments because I knew he'd shorten. I feel like Milan Native in the Ultima is probably, I don't know, he probably has been smashed up since those comments came out anyway, but he's definitely one that's going to be a lot of people fancy, I think.
Yeah, no, definitely, mate. Definitely.
Ascaria 10 is still toying between lots of races. Again, he was the one with the handicap mark to begin with. He like that run behind Eclair de Rire. He's a national hunt chase horse all the way through. So he said that his Ultima Chase or national hunt chase. I still think it's national hunt chase for him, and especially with Cocoa Beach not going to Cheltenham, he's got Galvin there. Pencilvilla Lady's already said to go in RSA, so mugged you right off, didn't he? But I feel like Ascaria 10 would be national hunt chase for people that are interested in him. And like I say, Eclair de Beaufort for the county was a bit interesting, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, it was, mate. Yeah, there's a couple in there. Another one I was sort of interested in with the entries today for the Martin Pipe was Gentleman de Me. But whether or not he goes there, they sort of name checked the Ballymore, aren't they? I think they took him out the Supreme. So they're looking at mid-range trips and probably see what his mark is next week. But he was the one he stuck out to me.
And that's the tricky thing with him because he's a Sea of Blue and Auschecker bar bet 365 who are only cash outable. He's 25s with them, he's 16s everywhere else. But like you say, if that UK mark comes over and they're not happy with it, you don't really want to be taking the risk because just because bet 365 is the top price, take the risk of doing it because they'll suspend the cash outs when the weights are coming out. Yeah. So you won't get the chance to do it. And then obviously backing it non-run and no bet's fine, but you're backing it non-run and no bet at 16s on a weight that you don't even know what it is yet. So just be cautious that there is a Sea of Blue in there, but sometimes the value isn't in getting the bigger price. The value is in knowing all of the factors before you do get involved. Right, we're getting into our final 10 minutes now. So like I say, our selections won't take very long, but looking forward to this weekend. I think I mentioned it at the start, unless I just said it to you. Fernie Hollow, Burning Victory appeared at Fairyhouse that weekend. Willie Mullins got a couple of interesting juvenile debutants in there, so go away and look at those horses and do your homework on those, because if they get declared, whether it's for now, whether it's for next season, whether it's for another spring festival, got a couple of nice types, I think, running in that race. In the bumper, he's got 2 rules debutants. One of them's won a point. Can't remember the 2 names of them, but again, go and have a little study of those horses' forms, because I think they're quite nice types as well. So 2 for Willie Mullins in the bumper, 2 for Willie Mullins in the juvenile. Not thinking they're going to be potential Cheltenham prospects, but if something does go and dot up in that Fairyhouse bumper, it's not too close to Cheltenham to win, because Fernie Hollow did it. And the same for Burning Victory. She won the juvenile, and then she went and won, because of Goshen, but she still ran well at Cheltenham regardless of what happened with Goshen. So they're interesting for me. Then at Kempton, the Pendle Novices Chase is, they should rename it. It's the horses that were never going to run at Cheltenham anyway, Novices Chase, because none of them were going to go to Cheltenham. They're all skipping it. So that looks quite a nice racing paper. The Dovecote itself looks probably the worst Dovecote I've ever seen on paper. But that Athol Street for Paul Nicholls, I think he's going to be, I think he's 7-2 with Sky Bet, which I think is a reasonable price. I think he's going to run. And I think he's going to be underrated a little bit, because the horses that he's beating, their handicap marks are pretty pants. But I think the race is so weak. 7-2 about him with Sky Bet looks fair, but we know short-term Antepost is suicide. Whether he's still that price or not, I don't know. But I think he'll win, but none of them are going to be winning the Supreme. And then the Adonis, a few of the 4-year-olds running in the Dovecote because they get the weight allowance. Hiras de Sul for Nicky Henderson. Very interested to watch that one run. Hopefully he does. Because remember last year, we had Willie Mullins and Henderson against each other with Asterion Follange and Shishkin in the Supreme. In the juvenile, we're going to have French Azil for Willie Mullins and then Hiras de Sul for Nicky Henderson. And Henderson does like this horse. He's only mentored loads to need to run him. He wants to get another running before Cheltenham. So I don't know. We saw what he did with Fuser Raffles a few years ago in that race when he suffered a cut leg, went straight to pretty much the head of the Triumph Market. When you look at the Triumph Market as it is Zanahiyr pretty much on his own, Quilixolos and then French Azil are where they are behind, but their prices aren't really going to change. There is a massive gap in there for a single figure price British runner. So if Saint wins the Adonis well, they're going to go short, like Solo did last year, but that doesn't mean they're going to go and win the race after. Hiras de Sul would be the one I'd be more interested in than Tritonic. I don't think Tritonic's good enough. Agreed.
No, Hiras de Sul would be the one I'd be most interested in as well, especially with the Hendo line on it. Probably the last chance for any of the British to make a challenge for me, though. I don't like any of the others, so last chance saloon.
Definitely. And because it's small fry weekend for me. Like, I like watching the races. There won't be too much stuff I'm getting betting into, but I'd look for a double on Hiras de Sul to win that and to win at Cheltenham, because you admittedly you might get cash out or non-one no bet, all those sort of concessions. But the way that the bet works is that he's going to win the Adonis and the price is going to shorten up, and you've got a good value ticket that you're not going to cash out of because you're in front. You'll just sit back on it. If you could end up getting like 2 or 3 times the price of him to win at Cheltenham, obviously depending on his price to win that race, for a smaller stake, whether it's your Sky £5 free bet or whatever, that may be the way to sit back and play the race. Plus, it saves you backing him on the day and doing your bollocks anyway. We're moving on to selections, mate, because time is running out. Do you want to go first or should I go first? Oh, you go first. I've been talking all night.
All right, mate. I'll go first.
Oh, no, stop. Before we do, we've got to do this really quickly. Facebook question. Chap said, if Shishkin was in the champion hurdle, what would it do to the market?
He'd be probably level favourite, wouldn't he? Be equal favourite, I'd say.
No, I think that's what I think. It's hard to say in it because he hasn't got any form over hurdles this season. We haven't seen him do anything.
Right, I'm saying if he just dropped him in there now.
Yeah, right now.
Right.
It's a pointless question because it ain't going to happen, isn't it?
Yeah.
But if they did do it, if for whatever reason he was going to run in there based off of what he's done this season, I think he should be like the big, probably even a bigger price than Abracadabras because he's coming in off the back of running over fences.
Do you think?
Because he's coming in off the back of fences.
Yeah, but no, mate, I can't be having that. It'd surely be short on Abracadabras.
Exactly. So if he's short than Abracadabras, you're saying he's going to be the same price as Goshen.
Yeah.
So we're not answering the question because we're going to make ourselves look stupid, aren't we?
Yeah.
It is an interesting one for like around the pub at a table just to talk about it. And it is a good one to get stuck into because it makes you think to look at how the markets might move and everything. But it is a question that doesn't need answering because it ain't going to happen.
Yeah. It's difficult,
So
like you say,
it's a hard one.
from the chase campaign into there. It's a completely different argument to if you
which is what they did with Bouvert, didn't they?
Yeah.
But yeah, and I think if he'd have gone over hurdles this season, I think he would be short for the champion hurdle this year because I think he would have dotted up over hurdles, but he hasn't, so pointless. Anyway, I thought I'd answer the question anyway because I do like those sort of things, but they're more mindfucks than anything, and we're running out of time. Right, 4 minutes, so you can have 3 of them if you want. Get it done, boy.
Right, Happy Go Lucky, 20-1, Ultima. Really like his profile for the race. He had 4 runs over hurdles last season. Started with a comfortable 11-length victory in a maiden hurdle over 2 mile 6. Finished 3 3/4 lengths, third to Time Hill at Cheltenham in November in the Grade 2, over 2 mile 5, and then 7 3/4 lengths, third in the Grade 2 over 2 mile 4 at Sandown in December behind Emerilo. So he ended that season then by finishing a very good 4th in the Martin Pipe. And when you watch it back, he came to jump the last in third when Colin Fire flattened the last, which everyone hates to remember, and hampered Happy Go Lucky, which checked his momentum a bit. But he did manage to get going again, stayed on well at the finish, just failed to pick up the third. Like I say, he was unlikely to win anyway, but I just think that was worth noting that he was hampered and he probably would have got a fair bit closer. This season, he began over fences with a 6.5 length victory over 2 mile 5, doing his best work at the finish, with the now 147 rated Paint the Dream back in second. He was half a length second at Fakenham the next day to Getaway Trump over 2 mile 5 on good ground. But that trip, I just think Getaway Trump had more toe than Happy Go Lucky. And then his last run was at Cheltenham over 3 mile 1, where he beat the Mighty Don by 3 3/4 lengths. And he's probably more impressive than the bare form that to me, because he got racing with Hold the Note. He was third in the Novice Handicap chase last year at Cheltenham from a fair way out, and he comfortably put him to bed before Mighty Don stayed on from nowhere really to pick up second, but he's never going to get to Happy Go Lucky. So Happy Go Lucky's now got a mark of 147. He's run 3 times at Cheltenham, like I say, with a decent third behind Time Hill over hurdles, good 4th in the Martin Pipe, and a solid victory over fences. He's only had the 1 run at 3 miles, and I just think there's more to come at that trip. Kim Bailey confirmed the other day on Twitter, didn't he, that this is going to be his tag, which is an important thing at this stage. And he just fits the profile really well. He's in the right age frame. Novices and second season chasers go really well. 7 of the last 8 had run at the previous festival. The British go really well in this. So yeah, he just really fits the profile down. I just think 20-1's fair enough.
Couldn't agree more with you, mate. I love the horse. He was on my horses to follow right at the beginning of the season. Yeah. Like everything you said, I just echo the whole lot of it. I think this horse has got a proper chance. So very well done for putting him up. Congratulations in getting him and putting him up. For me, we've got a very small amount of time. I've literally got 80 seconds, so I probably better stop talking. Longhouse Poet for the National Hunt Chase is going up for me. Talked about Next Destination being the one that I kind of like for the National Hunt Chase. He's going to go RSA, so I need one in the National Hunt Chase. This horse is definitely going there. No handicap entries. The last run that he had, where he stayed on really strongly, beat Run Wild Fred, favourite for the Kim, you're probably going to win it, and he beat the big dog that came out and won the other day for Jamie Codd. Like, that race has worked out really, really well. That was his first time running over 3 miles. Well, 3 miles 1 he ran. He's got loads of middle distance form before. But if I go back and say that he beat Monkfish in a bumper, he beat Colin Fire. He was not far behind Elixir Dene, a couple of lengths behind Latest Exhibition, a few lengths behind Envoy Elan. I know he got battered by him in the Ballymore, but he's got decent class form in there. We like these horses that back class. I think the National Hunt Chase is going to suit him. That's the only race that he's ended up in, so it's definitely where he's going. 16s with Bet365 will not be there on the day. Few horses that are shorter in the market won't go there. He'll be single figures. I think he's got a very, very good chance, especially if Martin Brazil juices him up like he did with City Island, who's been pants ever since. Anywho, that might be the end of the show. Might be the end of my career. Not it's a career, side hustle, isn't it? But thank you very much for watching. Thank you, Matt, for your time. And we will see you again next week.